Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. Today's reading is going to be what do you give to others? So, how do other people perceive you in relationships, family relationships, one to one relationships, or just generally in a larger number of people? You've got three piles. Pile one is the purple bauble, pile two, the pink, and pile three, the large blue bauble. So, just take your time and take your choice. Okay, let's get going. Pile number one. The other way. Okay, let's start off with your energy, your general energy at the moment. It might not be you, how you are in everyday life, since you've been born, your basic characteristics, but just generally your energy at the moment. Okay. I think that you are a mixture of being extremely wise, extremely bright, and extremely clever, but with almost the heart of somebody who's very spontaneous and quite an adventurer. You're not afraid to have nothing. You're the type of person who probably enjoys grabbing a good book and going on a long journey, and you basically get engulfed in your mind. I think that you are somebody who's probably very spontaneous and loves a clean slate, likes to start things afresh, not afraid to jump into situations, and is quite excited by anything new. I think you have an inner confidence about you, and I think people might be quite wary of you. They might think that you could be quite aloof, and you give that impression possibly of being it's like being in the know, the type of person that doesn't say a lot, but what they do say tends to have an impact. I think you probably have a lot of people quite envious about you, as if you seem to have I don't say shit together. I do actually mean that, to be honest. You've got your life together, and you don't seem to care too much about the everyday things that other people care about. Like when people get engulfed in, they become their job, or they identify with their finances or their money. There's like a bit of a free spirit with you here. There's almost like a carefree traveller, intellectual air about you. You're the type of person who lives in the middle of nowhere, and but is really intelligent and has their bookshelves are full. But they've also got like long hair and walk around with no clothes on. you know, there's a man that lives near us that does that. He paints in his garden, and sometimes on the way home from school with the kids, we drive past just to see him in the nude painting in the garden. He is an icon. That's the general impression that I'm getting from you, is that you're a free spirit but an extremely piercing intellect, but there's also a little bit of naughtiness here where you don't mind upsetting the apple cart. Okay, the next one is just adding to it really. Okay, you've got the Magician twice. And the Magician is somebody who is a fantastic card. It's somebody who's and you've got like an airy feeling of being very intellectual and very much in control of what you're giving out to people. I do think that you probably do frighten people, and you've also got you've got here the Queen of Swords and you've got the Knight of Swords. So you are very in control of your mind. You're very much in control of your speech. You choose your words carefully. And even if they all come out at once, that it always sounds well put together, if you know what I mean. You do a lot of thinking. You probably have read every classic available, And even if you haven't, if it's not that type of intellect, you enjoy talking and exchanging ideas, you like gathering information, and you're somebody who really enjoys a good get together, you like to know about people. You make people feel good because you seem interested in them, and you take an almost cool approach that you don't judge, you just sit there and you will listen and you'll exchange, and when it comes out of your mouth it sounds really intellectual. What a gift. But I do think you've got this sort of fearsome air about you that almost puts people on their back foot. And I'm not so sure if they're actually aggressive with you, but just a little bit wary of you. You're the type of person that I bet when you've been out and you've been with people and you're drinking and speech tends to be a little bit more free flowing, that somebody may have come up to you and said, you know, I actually thought you were quite scary when I met you, but now I don't think that, or, you know, that general feeling of them letting you know that they think you've got your shit together. You are, I am picking up from this pile that you are somebody who loves to start things afresh. There's like an air of an adventure, but not in a fiery way, but just in an intellectual sort of, you need to be inspired. You throw yourself into situations and you have a lot to give people. You have a lot of talents that that people need, that you just know how to do a lot of different things, and you know how to put your ideas across in a way that's accepted by other people. You're very good in a group situation. This card here, you've got the Three of Cups, and these crows, they've all got the same sort of ritual mask on. So it's almost as if it's telling me that, and like the triangle here in the circle, it's like a free flow of energy where you're all connected. You know, everything's equal between all of you, and the masks are almost as if you're all connected. You're all the same people. You join people together in groups. I wasn't even going to get on to this bit yet, but you know, this is coming across really well. You are fearsome, but you make people feel good. You make people feel good because you make them feel as if you connect with them really well. I think you're really good in conversations. I think you make the conversation interesting, you make it stimulating, you make people feel as if they're joined in with you. You're the type of person that will go, if somebody's new in a situation, you will go straight across, and not so much in a fiery way, in a loud way. It's almost quite perceptive way. You'll make them feel included. I think as well, the fact you've got the Knight of Swords here and the Queen of Swords here, I think you've worked on yourself really well. It's almost as if you know that you have the intellectual capacity to do a lot of things, you know, with people. Here you've got the Knight of Swords here, who's like a cobra that's puffed himself out. I have no idea what this is on his back. But it's almost as if loads of people are, well, they're not people, they're mongoose. They're mongoose. Mongooses are watching him. And he's in charge and people are listening to him. And then it's almost, I'm quite in awe of this pile, it's almost as if you progressed onto the Queen, where you're even more in control of your thoughts. And in control, I mean, this pile is intellectual. Now, what I'm going to try and see as I go further down is I'm looking for a warmth in it as well, because you are very much in charge of yourself and you're very good at including people. But at the moment, what I see, it's mental. You have a lot of gifts. You have a lot to give people. You know, I think you're very astute and very aware and almost quite... Mystical's not the word I'm thinking, but I'm thinking more intuitive. I can't say that word. I think I said it. Yeah, I said it. Yes, definitely. Okay, I'm going to go keep moving. Let's go on with these ones now. A fantastic start, a fantastic pile, just to start off with, because you've got the progression, you've got the mental clarity, you've got the gifts, and you know how to use them, and you use them in groups well. You make people feel included, and there's just that sort of vagabond, traveller, free spirit bit about you that's so attractive. You can almost just, I've said this yesterday or the day before, and I got two similar cards together, and it's just a general feeling of, everybody else around you is very controlled. They go to work and they may be in the same clothes and they go home and they don't think above that. You're the type of person who basically puts your knickers and your toothbrush in a bag and you're off. And you know that everything that you need is already inside you. A really strong pile. I can. What I'm looking for now after this start is something that shows me a bit of warmth and a bit of fire. I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. Oh, flipping heck! I'm shuffling here with my toes. Okay, in group situations, now you have actually got a sort of fiery card already. So in group situations, I think that you may be somebody who's quite anxious to speak up in group situations, to give yourself to other people. But once you get going, it's almost as if it's like the beast is unleashed, because once you are in the situation, you've been thrown into it, you have a sort of fun air about you that's quite confident. So people like that because they feel as if you're not taking it so seriously. What I'm trying to say is here, before you, if you had to do a speech on stage, I think you'd be really anxious before you went on. There would be something that would keep you awake at night. But once you get going, the 6 of Wands is like it's like victory, it's confidence, and this is like to do with group situations. So I think once you're in the group, because I think you do tend to over intellectualize things, but once you get started, it's almost that is when the fire comes out of you. And that's when you come across as being really in control and using these gifts that you have. And I also think as well that you've got a sense of humour that's quite naughty. So you can almost play with situations and play with people. And that really helps them feel included. So in group situations, I think you may have in a larger group this sort of general anxiety beforehand. But once you get going, I think you actually know that you're really good in groups. And that you bring the best out in people because you reveal more of yourself. And they could probably, without knowing you, feel that you are quite daunting because you might be quite cool and calm. But once you are in a situation and you are actually giving to a group or exchanging in a group, you're actually very warm and confident and playful. Okay, I think your relationship with your family is very strong in a way that I wonder whether it's some part in your life you've had to step up and take charge of situations, as if you've had to almost be the boss in your family for some reason. I don't know whether you're the eldest out of brothers and sisters, or whether your parents, didn't really give you the nurturing that you needed and you basically had to provide it for yourself. And there's a myriad of possibilities here, but I wonder whether you have got your strength of character with the magician twice from your upbringing. It's almost as if that possibly could have been a real step in what's brought you out of yourself and made you feel more confident as you've got older. I would say, because you've got the Emperor here, and the Emperor is quite, can you see these? Yes, you can. The Emperor is somebody who's quite in charge and can be quite overbearing at times. But I'm seeing this as you. But there is also the possibility that there could have been somebody in your family who was quite overbearing and, caused you to reevaluate who you were. But I think it made you mentally stronger. There is that possibility, but to be honest, I'm reading this as you, and that you somehow, with your relationship with your parents, it has almost caused you to to step up in some way and giving you some confidence as you may have struggled through a few things in your home life. I wonder as well whether your parents were quite into studying and exams and doing well in school, and maybe because you've got the Knight of Swords here as well, so the fact you've got so much air energy about you, there's definitely some emphasis on intellect here with you. And I wonder whether that's come from your family. I don't know if they were strict with you or whether it's just you that has taken on the role of being in charge, or that role may have been forced upon you, or it could have been your parents who were very much laid out the rules. They possibly could have been the parents that, you know, made sure you did well in your exams. You know, there was always that sort of, you know, how did you get on in school, rather than just letting you free reign. That's just too generally. I would, excuse me, I wonder whether it went both ways. If your parents weren't particularly strict and very keen on your schooling, you could. The other area I think it possibly could go is that you basically had to take a stand yourself and, you know, show up as an adult quite early on. I don't know if that rings true there, but okay, I'm going to keep going. This is funny. Okay. In close relationships, so, you know, with people like, you know, in love relationships, you have you know, I can still sense that almost control inside you. There's like the inner strength that you carry around with you all the time. It's a really, really strong pile. But it's almost as if I have a feeling you came up as the Queen of Swords and the Knight of Swords, and then in one-to-one relationships, we've got the Knave of Swords. I wonder whether you somehow play down your intellect in some way. If you let your partner sort of win intellectual debates, or in some way you don't like to show off too much with how you play with thoughts and words, and you just play it normal. You could be almost the type of person, and I know quite a lot of people that do this, who has a really large vocabulary, but then when it comes to certain relationships, you cut it back. It could be through the thought of being humiliated, because this is almost a bit of a fear of holding something back. Not fear, but, you know, fear and holding something back. And with the Knave of Swords here, it's almost as if you could play down your intellect, and you may cut back words which you would normally use, just in case you trip over them, or you may just generally just not feel comfortable enough to show that part of yourself. You do come across as being quite, this pile is very much in control. It's not really a shirking pile at all. So, you know, you are very aware of who you are, which is lovely to see. You come across as well as the King of Pentacles in relationships. So when you're giving to somebody, you're very good at giving practically. You're very good at making the people or the person feel comfortable. You know, you provide for them, and you want them to feel as if they belong in your space. You know, you're very giving, you're very caring. I am picking up though, and it's something that I started looking at the beginning with what you've got so far. I'm going to keep my mouth shut until I do the next one. Okay, I'm going to hold on to that thought until I put these 3 cards out. Okay. This is what I was just about to say. Now, you come across as being somebody that people really, really envy, because you are so in charge with yourself, and you give off that impression. It's almost like a cool, calm feeling that they pick up. In personal relationships, though, I wonder whether you hold back a lot of yourself, because opening up your emotions makes you feel quite vulnerable. You are, I wonder whether you are somebody in the future in your relationships, you need to be more childlike, and silly and yeah, I think you are spontaneous, but you need to show that more of your side. It's almost as if you cut yourselves back a little bit in personal relationships, as if you try and come across not as the goddess that you are or the god that you are, but you put yourself down to make the other person feel better. And in general situations, although you have a slight anxiety, perhaps in large groups to begin with, I don't get the feeling you do that in normal relationships. You need, I wonder whether could really do with just letting yourself be vulnerable and childlike in relationships. From your pile, though, I would not think you have anything at all to hide. But I would honestly say that, it's almost you've got the strength. I'll tell you why I'm saying this. This is one-to-one relationships. You've got the strength card here, which is somebody who's trying to hide their desire. They're trying to hide something, but they're using all their strength, and you are a strong person to do this. And then when I put these 3 cards down for boundaries that you possibly put up, and I'm trying to concentrate more on one-to-one relationships. I'll show you I'll show you. I'll show you. You've come over with the you've come over and have a cup of tea. You've come across with the 6 of cups here and the sun, and to me it's a vulnerability. Now this card here is a child is sat amongst the cups, and is almost, the card sort of depicts like, good childhood memories, openness and warmth, and the sun is that exactly. It's basically being open and childlike and vulnerable and showing your love. And also as well in this pile where you've got boundaries, you're coming across as the King of Pentacles in one-to-one relationships. So you're really good at practical, I'm going to say gifts, but, and because he's holding this in his hand here, you're really good at giving practically to people. You're probably the person late at night will go and pick somebody up when they're drunk and they're outside a club. You'll be that type of person that if somebody needs something picking up from the shops, you ring up and say, can I help you? But in one-to-one relationships, it's almost as if you play that down a bit, because you've got the Knight here. So this might be part of your personality. You may be really good at giving practically, but in one-to-one relationships, I think that you play yourself down a bit because there's a slight vulnerability about you. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Five. Okay, right, okay. My advice to you, you have come across as the most intelligent male or female who has so many gifts to give to people. You've got a really strong personality and you work really well in groups. You make people feel connected, and I can almost sense that you have a slight anxiety in larger groups to begin with, but once you get going, you shine. One-to-one relationships, you have a lot to give, but you hold a bit back of yourself. I do think there is a fear of, and we all have it, a fear of being vulnerable, which my advice to you is, you've got the King of Swords here. You're coming across Queen of Swords, Knight of Swords. There's a huge connection here between the main characters in here. So your advice is the King of Swords is just show people who you are. Be the person who you are. If you're intellectual, if you're very good with your words, if you're not so free flowing with your emotions, that's who you are. And don't hide that. You can show your vulnerability, but you don't have to be gushing. You may be one of those people who may not like a hug from somebody you've just met. You might be somebody who likes to step back and wait. So what? We are all different, and I think, your strength is you are a strong character. You have a lot to offer, but I wonder if may have felt that you may have watched other people, people who are probably I don't know, I'm thinking more watery, and you felt, oh, perhaps I should be like that. No, you shouldn't. You are perfect just at this moment in time, just the way you are. And I also think as well that if you're not getting on with somebody, then don't be afraid to be contentious. Don't be afraid to, have a scrap. Don't hold back all the time. It's almost as if you could let yourself go. I think you're very good at being different when it comes to doing something on your own. Like if you want to travel somewhere or you want to start something new, that wouldn't bother you at all. But with groups of people or on one-to-one relationships, you may be a little bit sort of scared of having a good old scrap. And the last advice for you is like the Nine of Cups. Is like you have everything. You are basically the smarmy devil who knows that they have everything. So your advice is realize that. Your beauty is the fact that you have everything already, and be content in that. Don't go looking for too much outside of yourself that you need to improve on, because you have it all inside you already. Your pile here shows such fantastic progression. The way that you have developed yourself. But it's almost as if you don't know that and you're just a little bit afraid to reveal yourself. Right, pile number 1, I'm going to leave it there. The only thing I would say apart from that is to be a little bit more vulnerable in one-to-one relationships. Just show, don't be too scared to show that. I think that will do you good. Show your underbelly a little bit occasionally. You can't all be, intelligence. There's got to be some sort of, people do need, makes them feel comfortable because you're a scary pile in a really good way. You know where you're going. Okay, right, pile number 1. Can I just say before I finish, it's just something I've been thinking of quite a bit lately, that when I'm reading, I want you to possibly just take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, if there's something there that doesn't resonate whatsoever, just totally ignore it. It's like overhearing, a conversation as I said yesterday, at the bus stop. If something applies, then steal it for yourself and take it and run with it. To make the best out of yourself. But the negative bits, if you think you can work on them and it will help you, then do it. But if you're hearing something, you think, well, that's not me, then it's not you. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening, and I hope that helped. And I hope to see you again. Right, pile number 2. I hope this is you. I never know where. I totally forget which pile number 2 is when I've stuck it to the side. Right, let's get going. I haven't looked at these cards, so just give me a moment when I turn them over, as I will need to basically take them in by osmosis. Okay, right. The energy I think that you carry around with you at the moment, this may not be you long term, it may not be you a year ago, but generally at the moment I think you are in some sort of process of self-development in some sort of psychic way, some sort of mystical way. You may be reading a lot on the occult, you may be having, I was going to say out-of-body experiences. I don't know why I was going to say that. I think I probably saw the moon here. And talking to somebody earlier about waking up and finding themselves looking at themselves. They're on the ceiling looking at themselves. But that's just came into my mind, and I don't know if that applies, but I think it's worth mentioning. You are somebody who is beginning or is on a journey of looking at things below the surface. I think you're very aware of picking up people's energy yourself. You're almost very good at reading, you know, when you sort of, when you stand next to somebody and you can feel their vibration, you can almost pick up who they are or how they're feeling at that particular time, and which could be, you could be quite sensitive. But I do think just this woman here with the you know, she's reading. I do think that you are studying. You're probably very sensitive, very intuitive. I can't say that bloody word. I think you're quite adept at. So you're really sorry. I know I'm sort of weighing this up at the moment, but you are a fantastic mixture with. You almost especially the Temperance card here, because you are a fantastic mixture of almost mystical and practical. So you're very good at knowing what's going on, and you're probably very good at feeling situations, and then you almost, I can't think of the words to say, but you almost take people by surprise by being so grounded, and you're so able to control practical situations, and people wouldn't know that from looking at you or the way that you speak or the way you come across. You may come across as quite airy fairy, romantic, innocent and childlike, but I don't think people would know once they've mucked with you. They wouldn't be thinking that. I do think that you're very good at getting to the point, and you're very good at playing with situations, practical situations. I don't think you waver through life as much as you give the impression that you do. I think that your steps to where you've got now have been almost quite calculated in a really sort of astute way. Not calculated in a bad way, but you're a mixture of mystical beauty and calculated practicality. I don't know if that fits, but that's why I'm picking up these two cards together. High Priestess is just basically, you know, she's somebody who can see what's going on, and she almost just, she swims behind the scenes. And these cards here, especially this one here, and these are practical cards. You know, how do you play with practical situations? How do you see them? You play with them really well, and you see straight through them. Okay, let me just get a little bit more about you. Oh my gosh, you've got that, the High Priestess twice. So when I'm saying that you play around with out-of-body experiences, tarot cards, astrology, you know, all this sort of you know, clairvoyance, anything like that, I don't think you play around it at all. I think you know exactly what you're doing, and you're really good at it. You have this energy around you where you, this is fantastic, because you have this energy around you where you have that sort of free-flowing spiritual energy, but you've almost centered it and brought it down, and you're using it, and you use it in such a fashion that you make people just automatically feel involved with you. What a fantastic power. You've got the Empress card here. So this mysticism and this practicality is almost expressed in a almost motherly quality, which is just fantastic. And you've got the Hierophant here as well. You can organize yourself. You know, you're the type of person that people come to in situations to find out what to do next. You have that sort of, I wonder whether you're doing something already for yourself with these cards here, whether you almost were in some way with your, you know, almost like your psychic abilities. Because I I think you know what you're doing in a really good way, because you're a fantastic combination there of being out of this world, but you know, being really aware of how to work in it. And you do it in such a way, you know, there's like a creativity, and I'm sure you do it in such a way that makes people feel as if they are involved with you, not as if you're untouchable, but almost as if you welcome them. And I imagine that you do this in a way that is almost like it spreads out, as in you have your knowledge and your creativity, and then you put your fingers out, and everything that you touch almost blooms, and people come towards you. Because you've got the Hierophant here, he's like an organized, it's like organized religion, but you are not organized religion. I think that you are organized in your unreligion. I made that word out. You know when you get those like, I'm going to say this and sound like a right nerd, but you know when you get these sort of these things you read in like star seeds that you think, oh, I don't know if that's made up or what, but you get the the impression that people are here who basically are more aware. They read situations, they dream situations, they are in touch with people, they pick out people's vibrations, they can just guess things. We can all do it. My husband's not the least bit interested in astrology. He basically reads How to Pass Your MOT, is his favourite book. He has no interest, but I have ranted on so much that he can guess people's sun signs, almost like 80% of the time. It makes me laugh. What I was trying to say is, you have this energy of being here for a purpose, and almost you've done a really good job at it, because I'm ranting here. You've done a really good job at bringing down something that you needed to bring into this time, that is a little bit above the mundane, and I think you are structuring this really well in your life. Right, okay, I'm going to move on. So how do you get this across to people? All upside down. Okay. I think that in group situations you are really good at being open-hearted. You're very good at working in, I would say, small groups. And once again, I get this practical feeling you could already hold like workshops or something where you show people how to deal with some sort of feminine aspect of themselves. And I'm making this up totally from what I can see here. This won't ring true. I think I'm going mad. But I wonder whether you are somebody who, if this is not in workshop situations, it's just generally in groups of people, small groups of people like friends, you are very welcoming and very open and very vulnerable. You make people feel welcome, but it's almost in a way that you hold back and leave space for them to open up. And that's where they start revealing themselves and finding out who they are. And that's where your gift is, in the fact that you aren't overbearing and that you have this sort of inner confidence, but it's almost in a watery way where you let them reveal themselves because you make them feel accepted. And that's probably where your strength lies. I think you're really good at working in small groups. If you're not doing something like pulling people together, even if it's just friend groups, it doesn't always have to be work, although this is a work card, and you are showing them how to deal with emotions, and it could just be a general work situation, and letting them reveal themselves but letting them feel accepted. I think that's something you should be doing, because I think that's something you'd be really good at. People feel comfortable with you, and I wonder whether you've just got a good group of close friends. Right. Okay. These are your last few cards aren't straightforward. These are really straightforward cards. For your family, I wonder whether you are a very good, solid member of your family. You're very practical, you're very giving, and you do it in a mature way and a playful way. You're probably very good at playing with your nephews, nieces, children. They're just that general sort of somebody you can rely on, and somebody who basically you can go to and have a good time with. You are confident in your role in the family, and you give across, you make people feel good. Your inner confidence seems to seep out, and people just feel accepted by you, and your family is definitely no exception. Really strong altogether pile here. I get the general impression that the children are drawn to you because I think you've probably got a sort of a quirky sense of humour, but you're also somebody that people fall back on when things go wrong. You just have an air of confidence and, you know, like a warmth about you with your family members that people are drawn to you. Okay, once again, it's a quite a family pile here. I wonder whether you are quite close to your family, or whether you already are in a family, or whether you're married. But I just get the impression that you are somebody who's very grounded, somebody who likes to have their material existence organised. And once one relationship, there's no exception there either. You are somebody who is probably very good at, I was going to say cooking, but that's too narrow. What I'm trying to say is somebody that's very good at being a good partner in a practical way. When when things need to be done, you're there. You're not some slippery fish that runs off and slides out of your responsibilities. You like a good home, and I think that, you know, your home life is really important to you. If you don't have your own home yet, it was something you probably want to aim for in the future. The last part was quite a sort of vagabond feel about it, where this person or these people like to basically move and be, you know, basically travel. With you, I just get the general feeling that even if you do travel and you do move a lot, but deep down you quite value your family life. There's a strong practical feel about this, and I wonder whether this sort of practicality that you're sort of giving off to other people, and you're making them feel comfortable and making them feel as if whatever happens you'll be there. It's like a solid, you know, salt of the earth feeling about you, but it's almost as if it counteracts the fact that you've got all this sort of Pisces energy and this sort of intuitions, but it's a really good balance, because if you had too much of that Pisces, you'd be quite a slippery fish and people wouldn't be. Now, as we're saying, you know, what you look like in relationships, people are drawn to you because you have a softness and an awareness of a larger reality, but you know how to ground that with your warmth in everyday life. Packs upside down. Okay. This part here, this next row, I'd actually put in to sort of, you know, just to see what you were like and what you had to give to people, and which you seem to do, you know, as I'm not going to repeat myself. And I would also say, this is for your boundaries, just in case people, you know, it's okay to give, but you've got to give to yourself as well. I would say that you have quite strong boundaries, basically, because the world here is like the end, and it's, you know, it's basically everything summed up in the world. You've got the four different modalities here in the corners, and you've got, it's everything summed up. So I've got a funny feeling you are quite, you've got reasonably strong boundaries. You're not afraid to say, it's quite a strong pile really, you're not afraid to say enough is enough. Right, advice for you, advice for you. Oh wow, okay. Your advice is, and this doesn't surprise me at all, now you have a huge amount to give other people. It's not very often you see piles that basically stick together the, you know, pull together the higher sort of, I can't think of the word, like mystical knowing qualities with such practicality. And you've got the Hierophant again, you've got the Strength card, and you've got the Eight of Wands. So I think that this basically pulls down exactly what I've said. You need to carry on, because I think you've already started organising the beauty that is you, this whole pile, with confidence, and to communicate it to other people. And I think the way forward for you is to do it in small groups. And I don't quite know what I mean by that. I mean, you know, just generally, everybody's got different lifestyles. It could be generally giving to your friends in small groups. You know, making them feel valued, making them feel as if they are, you know, because you've got this all about you. Or also, you know, you could also start setting up workshops with something that you're interested in. You know, you have the confidence to do it. You just need to organise yourself to do it and just communicate. And I think that you're already on this track. I think you are already on this track. I think you know who you are. I think you know you're quite spiritual, and I think you're quite aware of where you sit in life. It's almost like a quiet confidence, but you need to just carry on with it. This last line of advice does not surprise me. It just basically says carry on with what you're doing, because you're in a really good place. Right, pile number 2. I hope that rings true. Thank you. Right, pile number 2. Let's put those on the floor. Hi, pile number 3. The camera's still on. Yep. Okay. So let's just go with you. So this one is what do you give to relationships and others? So basically, what we're looking at is who you are at the moment, not who you are in general. Where you are at the moment. So these 3, I haven't looked at these yet. Let's have a look at your cards here. See who you're coming across at the moment. Okay. Right, straight away, where you are at the moment with your personality and with your development is you are coming across as somebody who has a inner strength, somebody who has probably been through trials and tribulations in their life, and you have come out with an open heart. You have come out of these ups and downs with almost victorious. At this time in your life, you feel, regardless of whatever's knocked you down, that you have the abilities and the strength inside you to carry on. You do, and it's almost as if it's, you know, there's like a victory feeling about this, as if you've done a really good job at wading through the shit. You've got the Queen of Pentacles here, and this is quite nice because it mixes the fire and the energy with practicality. It's almost as if that you almost give a beauty and a welcoming to, that doesn't sound crap, doesn't it? You give, I'm trying to say, you give across your strength and your beauty, and you welcome other people into your life, and you make them feel good in that way. I have this feeling, I'm making this up, I have this feeling, this thoughts and feelings that you're somebody who is quite daunting to people because you have an inner confidence. You may not be somebody who shouts from the rooftops, but I think in situations where people first meet you, and that you may seem, this is not in a spiky way at all, but almost in a warm way, that you are in control of yourself, and you've done the work on yourself, and you have arrived at this space in your life, and you're happy with where you are because you've had to work to get there. My gosh, you've got the Strength twice. The last person had the High Priestess twice, and this is really strange. And the first one had the Magician twice. So let's go back to the Strength card. The Strength card here, this obviously has got some sort of meaning for this group at the moment because it's come out twice. But you've got here, this lion is, you can't tell whether it's got fear in its eyes or it's just basically being very threatening. And then you've got the, what snake is that? Cobra? I don't know. I'm so thick. Who is a totally different animal, and they are both almost having a sort of a, not play off, I don't know what it's called, it just gives the feeling that whatever happens in your life, that you have the strength to know that how far to push it, not to be overbearing with people, because it's almost as if you don't need to have the recognition of your in your ego to know that you can bowl people over. You just basically go as far and you think, well, this is me, this is where I've got in life, and I'm quite happy with that. And this snake here, he's just a scaly slither compared to the lion, but there's just almost as if there's a fear there in both of them. It doesn't really matter in your size, but what I'm trying to say is you have worked through your life and you've come out with this confidence, and it's almost as if you're getting there and it's built inside you and nobody can take that away from you. You are not afraid at this time in your life to have a scrap with somebody if needed. You're open and you're welcoming, and you've got the lovers here, so you know what it's like to exchange love and you give love freely. You're basically quite aware of yourself in that sense, but you have a fierceness about you, an inner strength, which I think would be quite threatening to other people, but you don't need to use it. You don't need to show it. People may sense it inside you that it's there. They might not want to muck with you because you've got this like 5 of Wands here. The spiky sort of, they know that you can come out all guns blazing, but you keep it in. You don't need to show it. Your ego is quite strong. And you have also, which is lovely, like an inner confidence of your emotional qualities. You're quite easy giving, and you expect it back. It's quite a good balance there. Right, what's the next one? Oh my gosh. Okay, you work really well in small groups. You're very good with a small group of people, possibly just friends in a small friendship group. You probably work really well. You are somebody who likes to be in control. You're probably somebody who is quite fiery, likes to have fun, likes to take people with them. Almost likes things to kick off in some way. I do think though, I've said the 5 of Swords here. Now you've had that twice, and I initially said that you don't, because you've got the strength as well, which is a real strange combination, because the 5 of Swords is almost a bit like, I wonder if you fight with this in your life. You get to situations, and I'm getting the impression that you are quite a determined and feisty person, so you get to the point in your life, and this may be an issue that you've had up until now, where you think you're just about to have a scrap with somebody, or somebody's really annoyed you, and you have learned how to pull in. You have learned when to fight your battles and when not to. And in group situations, I think that you're really good at possibly organising other people. You're probably very diplomatic because you've learned this lesson yourself. You could be in a position in small groups where you take the responsibility, because this is a small groups. I'm not saying like a boss in a job, but you may be very good at being in charge of small groups of people, because you would know how to control them. You know how to direct things. It's got almost a diplomat feel about it. The confidence with the self-control, and almost as if you control when things start kicking off, when people are basically just giving crap out, that you know how to deal with it. Let's just have a little look here. Okay, I think you've got a lot of your confidence from working with your family in some way, where they have either taught you how to control yourself, how to be strong, or they've caused you to learn how to do it yourself. I wonder whether growing up in your childhood has almost trained you in either positive or negative. I don't know how you've actually got there, to bring the best out of yourself, because you have a strong, this pile has a strong self-control feel about them. But also you've got the lovers here as well, so there's also like an open heart and an emotional exchange there. You know how to use your words, and your family has probably also taught you that. I don't know if you've got brothers and sisters where you know how to communicate properly, and also there could have been a little bit of sparring in your family life that had, you know, that doesn't scare you when it comes up in everyday life now. And I do think that your family life has set you up in some way. It could be either way. They could have set you up in a way that you've had to fight your way through your family, or your family been very supportive and taught you how to deal with everyday situations, and that's where you get your strength from. Who knows? Let's keep going. Interesting though. I think in one-to-one relationships, you can be split between two people. You can come across either as almost the perfect wife or the perfect husband, in that you provide everything that the person, that when one-to-one relationships, everything that person could possibly practically need. But there's also and as I've said, and I'm picking up, this is a fiery chart. You have a strength of character that basically doesn't let you get shat upon. You are somebody who enjoys a good time. You are somebody who needs a release. You don't want to be tied to the kitchen sink. You don't want to be tied to a 9-to-5 job. You need something that allows your creativity to show. Now, you could very much be Leo, or have Leo strong in your chart. You know, Leo needs warmth, it needs to shine. That's what's going to bring the best out of you and the best out of everybody else. You know, they like to be the centre. They like to give out the warmth. I think in one-to-one relationships, you know, that's probably how you do come across, as slightly Leo and slightly earthy. You are prepared to wait for the right person. You're prepared to work towards the right person. But I think once you get in a one-to-one relationship, I think you need you need to be the centre. I don't think anybody would get away with cheating on you, is what I'm trying to say. And I suppose the question is what do you give to others? You give a lot to others. So in one-to-one relationships, you basically make the relationship fun. You like a good night out, and you make the other person feel loved. You are warm and you are open and you're not shy, and you also have this sort of, you know, sort of perfection in giving practically to to the person that you decide that you want to be with. You can provide, you have a lot to give in relationships, and you're prepared to work for it, which is very attractive. So, but whoever is in a relationship with you, they need to make you the centre. I would suggest to you to never put up with being second best, because I don't think it would rub. You've got too much fire in you. You've got too much sort of strength and Leo qualities. I think you would just generally kick off. I think if anybody cheated on you, they would know about it. I just don't think that would go down well. I'm thinking, you know, like you get fire Sagittarius, and I think, to be honest, if you cheated on a Sagittarius, they may just join in. But I don't think that would go down well with you. Okay, I do think that this row here is for boundaries, and I do think that because it's so close to this love relationship, that you tend to let your boundaries down when it comes to love. For this strength of character that you come across to be, and how you give to other people, and how you don't mind a fight if it's needed, but you have learned to control yourself. I do think in a relationship is when you turn into jelly. It's almost as if your hard shell almost turns to blancmange. The steps that your family possibly, or that you have learned in your childhood to, I wouldn't say self-protected, because I don't get that feeling from you. It's just an inner confidence that you tend to be more vulnerable. I know everybody does, but I didn't pick this up in the other parts. You tend to be more vulnerable in love relationships. And I think that unless you thought you were going to get, I would say it could just be the way, just where you are at this moment. We definitely all go through different stages in our life where we come across differently, and as we all know. Right, advice for you. Okay, your advice is strange. Your advice here, with everything that we've just said, is that if you are watching this at the moment and you are watching it because you have gone through something which you found painful, possibly in a one-to-one relationship, your advice here is to recalibrate, to take yourself and heal yourself, and then start moving out again in small steps. And then you will generally, I don't know if this is true, if you have been hurt in a relationship recently or in the past, or you feel vulnerable, or you feel that you've been scarred by some relationship, I think that you need to just accept that, keep quiet for a bit, work on yourself, and then start moving out into the world with small steps. But I don't mean in a practical way, but just basically to get your heart back on track again, because you have an inner strength about you that I don't think is going to stay still for long. You are a feisty pack. I wouldn't mess with you. Beautifully strong. I think you've learnt to be strong, and it's like a confidence, an inner confidence that you have, that you don't need to fight. But if anybody else tried it on with you, they would know about it. The only bit that I would say that I pick up about this is that you have worked really well on yourself, and you have this beauty of just basically giving to people naturally, because you've got you've got the lovers twice, you've got the strength twice, and you've got the Queen of Wands. There's an inner warmth to you that you don't need me to tell you how to give to people, because you just do it naturally. But there is a vulnerability in love relationships with you that you need to basically heal yourself and move forward, because you've got too much to give to keep it in. Okay, pile number 3. I feel like I have talked the back end of a donkey off. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.